Decai's wife, already frail from the recurrence of gynecological issues, found herself even more devastated after her recent miscarriage. The emotional and physical toll left her feeling hopeless, and she no longer wanted to live. Desperate for recovery, she began running alone in the mountains, determined to rebuild her strength. As she ran, she recited pages of books, trying to find comfort in words and the solitude of nature. Yet, the grief she carried from the loss was undeniable. Decai's position in the family had shifted, and now, more than ever, his wife's well-being was a priority. To aid in her recovery, an elderly family member named Gon gave her a freshly killed lamb, believing it would help restore her strength. The offering was meant to nourish her body after the trauma of her miscarriage. However, the emotional strain between Decai and his wife remained palpable. Her emotional distress from the miscarriage had caused further tension in their relationship. Her previous attempts at pregnancy had been marred by complications, and this latest loss had only worsened her mental state. In the midst of this, Decai's wife was struggling to cope with the absence of support from her husband. The resentment grew when Decai's fourth brother, hearing of the miscarriage, left their home in anger. His departure only deepened the rift, leaving Decai's wife feeling more isolated. Desperate to regain a sense of control over her life, Decai's wife focused on work to distract herself from the emotional pain. She began her day by feeding the children, tending to breakfast, and taking care of the animals. She even fed the old sow, pondering whether it could produce another litter of piglets. This simple act of responsibility helped her push through the heaviness in her heart, though the emotional weight was ever present. In an effort to find solace and escape from her painful memories, Decai's wife took to the mountains with her child to gather firewood. The photographer, concerned for her well-being, advised her to rest at home, given that she had only recently miscarried. But she ignored the photographer's words, focused only on the task at hand. She was determined to push through, even if it meant doing it alone. Her sadness was evident as she silently carried the load, lost in the bitter memory of the past. She thought back to the times when she and her husband had shared this same work in the mountains, when they had been a family united. But now those days felt distant. She carried firewood alone, with no one by her side, not even her husband. The thought of rolling down the hill unnoticed, with no one to find her, haunted her. This isolation was something she had grown accustomed to, but it didn't lessen the pain. With the new year approaching, Decai's wife couldn't help but think about the past and the fractured state of her life. Her sense of dignity had been lost along with her husband's affection. She was left to shoulder the burdens of the family, feeling like an unseen and unappreciated worker. As she continued on her way, the photographer quietly observed, aware of the heavy heart she carried. The journey of Decai's wife is a difficult one, filled with grief, isolation, and the desire to find meaning in her life after loss. While the mountain paths she walks may be filled with physical exertion, they are also a reflection of the emotional weight she bears, alone, as she attempts to rebuild herself and her sense of purpose.